Ah, hello. It is I, Matthew Harvey, as you may have noticed as you're watching this on one of my channels. And it's Friday afternoon, Friday evening here in the UK. So wherever you are, happy Friday. And I thought I would go live, drink a bit of a beer, show you some things. I'm drinking this beer if anyone's interested. I don't know how to get that to focus. I come back to my head. So yes, a session IPA from 10-4 Brewing. It's rather nice. So, yeah, here I am in my writing room. Welcome, one and all. And I'll hang off a bit before I start showing everything little bits and pieces that I wanted to show you, because I thought people might join in. See a few people joining. If you ping any messages in the chat, I should be able to see them, and I'll do my best to answer anything that I can. Hope you're all having a good week, or you've had a good week, and that you're looking forward to the weekend, and that the weekend is going to be good. I'm off to the rugby tomorrow. So, yeah, I'm off to see Wales versus Scotland in Cardiff. So that should be fun. And we'll see if I manage to get out of that without catching the dreaded COVID, which is always a possibility nowadays. Going anywhere, but I'll do my best. I'm looking forward to it. Going to see some friends. So hopefully Wales will win, because bizarrely I support Wales, as some of you may know. Right, well, things that I've got to show you. Well, I said I'd show you a new book, and I will, and maybe later on, if other people join, I might show it again. But a new book. It's not exactly, well, it's a new book. It's not a book that you won't have heard of, but you might not have seen it in this format, because I hadn't until yesterday, really. It is, well, you can guess what book that is. It's got my name on the top, which is good. So, any ideas? Anyone speak this language? I've actually put this up before, and mentioned that the translation was coming, but I don't know if any of my readers that follow me on Facebook and Twitter and YouTube actually are from this place and speak this language. But any guesses? Not seeing any guesses coming in. Any guesses as to which book it is, even if you can't guess which language? Because I got no idea what that says. All I know is this, but I do think that I kind of recognize this word here, which seems to, it might give it away. I think this is saying something like the Vikings are coming. So this is A Time for Swords. A Time for Swords, the first in the A Time for Swords series. Not in French. It is well, I won't tell you what language it is. So Jason Phillips has guessed French. It is not French. So any other guesses? Anyone on the line? Anyone have any clues as to what language this could be before I reveal all? I've got something else to show you after this as well. Look at that. So thank you, Gavin. This is nice. Look, it's got the, I'll show you in a minute. It's got the map inside with bits translated as well. I think I can find it. I saw it the other day. Here you go. So it's got the map, same style map. They've translated some of the words, of course. Some of them haven't bothered, which I get. Oh, somebody's saying German. Tracy's saying German. No, it's not German. Aha, Gavin, you got it. You got it. Gavin Smith has got it. It is Czech. Yeah, so this is in Czech. So it's a nicely put together book. It's a nice hardback. I didn't think it was going to come out in hardback, but I don't know why I didn't think that. But it's a nice looking book. It's a smaller hardback than the ones in the UK. I'm always interested. I haven't had many books translated, but I'm always interested to see differences. I don't speak Czech, of course. But I say of course, but I mean I could speak Czech, but I don't. I do speak Spanish, but not Czech. But I'm always interested to see differences. And the only other book so far I've seen translated was The Serpent Sword, which translated into Russian. And I could look through that, and the thing that interested me about the Russian translation was that it had footnotes, and I did a bit of Google Translate on them, and they'd put they put footnotes on some of the difficult words, or the words they considered to be difficult, like some of the weapons and things. So that was interesting because it sort of made it a bit more like almost like a textbook. It felt like. But one of the things they've got here, and I haven't translated it, but I'm pretty sure it's pretty clear that this is canonical times of the date and canonical the canonical what are they called, the orders of the day. So matins and lords and prime and stuff. So they've put that in a definition of them in for, because obviously in the Time for Swords there's lots about Hunlaf being a monk, and I don't actually include that in the English version. So obviously the translator thought that was worth adding. So you've got even got a photo of me in the back to prove that it's me. So I'm actually going on holiday in the summer to the Czech Republic. So if I see one of these in a bookshop, maybe I can actually say, look, it's me. Let me sign my book, and they'll be able to see that it is me. But I doubt that's going to happen. But you never know. That'll be funny. I don't often see my books in Britain on bookshelves, in shops. So if I did in the Czech Republic, that would be quite amusing. So so there's that. So if anybody, I've got I want to keep one for myself because it's always nice to have one just to remind myself that I've had one translated. But I've got a couple of others knocking around. So if anybody speaks Czech or knows someone that speaks Czech and might like a copy, drop me a message. You don't have to do it publicly here. You can just ping me a DM or something on Twitter or Facebook, or send me an email and let me know. Maybe I can sort you out with a signed copy or something, because there's not really much point in me having 4 of these. I've got 4, but they sent me 4 copies, so I don't really think I'm going to need 4 copies of it. But the other good news about the Czech thing is that this publisher, so I'm very indebted to this publisher, it's called Alpress. They have obviously bought this book, which is great. But another publisher came along and asked if they could publish Wolf of Wessex also in Czech. And so Alpress, I can't remember the name of the other publisher, which I think it's Dobrovsky actually, and they got into a bit of a bidding war with Alpress over Wolf of Wessex, which is the first time ever for me, and Dobrovsky won. So I'm now going to be published in Czech by 2 different publishers. So that's lots of firsts for me. So I'm going to have 2 books out in Czech, and potentially I think maybe Alpress will buy the second book, A Night of Flames, of this series. I presume if it does okay, they'll buy the second one. So all exciting stuff from the Czech Republic. And that brings me on nicely to A Night of Flames. And on the same day that the 4 copies of the Czech book arrived, the book in Czech, A Night of Flames in hardback arrived, which is out on the 3rd of March. And here it is, looking fantastic. If I say so myself, I didn't actually design it, so I'm allowed to say that. I wrote it, but I didn't, so I can't say that it's amazing. Hopefully it is. So you can see there's a lovely quote there from Theodore Brun, or Brun. I don't know how you pronounce his surname actually, but let's say Brun. Theodore Brun on the front. Harvey is a master of the Dark Age thriller. Wow, he writes Viking. He's in the process of writing a Viking saga. I think he's got three books out so far in his series. So yeah, if you haven't read Theo's books, Theodore Brun got some exciting Viking books. And then we've got A Wild Land, A Lethal Fanatic, A Violent Revolt. So yeah, looking great. And it looks great actually next to, I'll go and grab a copy of the other one to show you, because if you haven't seen, next to, they've done a great job with colour sort of design coordination, I think, to make the 2 look sort of coordinated. Time for Swords. Look at the color palette and obviously the layout similar, but the color palette as well is great. And I'm covering up the flames, but if you've got the sunset and the flames both sort of have the orange tint there, and the rest of it's very similar palette. So they've done a great job of that. Let me show you a bit more of the book inside. So you got the usual inside. We've got the nice color maps, which I will show you, but they're new maps. So all the maps have been the same so far in my books, pretty much, different bits of Britain. But here, let's see if I can hold it up. So you can see on this side, you've got Britain, and it's giving you a bit away, but there's a sea. There's a sea trip. So you can see that they're going to travel in a ship, and then they arrive at this stage over here in Rogaland, which has got an incredibly difficult name to pronounce in Old Norse, something like Rugia Falki or something like that. And that's over here, and you can see the journey continues over there. So the maps are great. I don't know if the guy's credited, because in the previous books he wasn't credited. I think he might be this time. So look, is he? Map design? No. I keep asking for his name to be included. He always seems to miss out. I don't know if he's included in the No. Okay. It's Jeff somebody or other. I can't remember his surname. Anyway, great. And inside, I'm looking here at my first book published in 2022, copyright 2022, and Head of Zeus, part of Bloomsbury Publishing PLC. That's the first time I've had a book that says it's published by Bloomsbury, because Head of Zeus was bought by Bloomsbury last year. My dedication there to my mates, Derek and Jackie. More mead. And then the book. I'm not gonna read it to you, but it's looking good. Again, photo of me, Wolf of Wessex, and the Time for Swords at the back, and the maps again. Looking great, and lovely quotes on the back from other writers to whom I am indebted, as always. Paul Fraser Collard. If you haven't read his books, get on it and read them. They're brilliant. Well, in fact, I've already plugged Theodore Brunn as well. But Christian Cameron, you've probably heard of. He's got tons of books, and he's a fantastic writer. Paul Fraser Collard, he writes a series of books about a character called Jack Lark, and the first book is called The Scarlet Thief, and it's set in the time of the Crimean War in the 19th century, and Jack Lark ends up going all over the place and having incredible adventures. I think he's on book 10 now, which I read recently, and that's called Commander, and the whole series is definitely worth a read, so get on it. Right. So I get a message by my mates about the rugby tomorrow, so they're trying to organise the rugby, but I'm sorry, I'm doing this, more important. I'll be there. I'm looking forward to it. Thanks, Ed. Ed's saying he's reading the second of the Banishing Chronicles. Hope you like the rest of the series. Right. So yeah, reading the comments. Other things that I was going to talk about. I ordered something. Something arrived this week. So I'm kind of demob happy, because if you've seen on social media, I posted on Wednesday, I finished the first draft of Forest of Foes, which is book 9 of the Banishing Chronicles. And first draft for me is a very rough draft. There's still lots and lots to do. There's lots of gaps as I'm writing. When I realize there's something missing, like some historical context, something specific, I'll put square brackets in, and then I have to go back. So first draft for me is finishing the sort of the bulk of the story, but still having these gaps to fill. So there's probably still a couple of weeks work to do that. And then I need to print the whole thing out and read it all the way through, and then do some editing, structural edits and stuff of the actual novel. So there's still probably a month or probably 2 months work. But it feels like a great milestone, and it's really nice. So I had a day off yesterday, didn't really do any work, and pretty much today I only did a couple of hours work, but I've had most of the day off. Next week back back to the grindstone. But it's been a good week. And then yesterday, as I say, the Time for Swords came. Sorry, a Night of Flames arrived, the hardback, and the Time for Swords in Czech. And I got the news about the Wolf of Wessex selling to this Czech publisher as well. So it's been a really good week. And then out of the blue as well, I received something else, and I'd totally forgotten that I bought this thing, because I bought it on Kickstarter years ago. Well, it wasn't years ago, it's probably 6 months ago or something, but it was so long ago, and it was, I don't know, 20 quid or something, and I'd forgotten about it. So I got this parcel, and it said, it's from the States, and I was like, well, what's this box? Anyway, I opened it up, and lo and behold, this is what it was. There's two things, but I'll show you the first thing. So this book called Althingi, The Crescent and the Northern Star. So I'll read the back. So this was a Kickstarter project which I backed, obviously, and I now have this book. There's an urgent need for cross-cultural conversations, bridges of understanding between people of different beliefs, and a recommitment to a common understanding of our shared history. The history not of any one particular group, but of humanity itself. It starts off actually in our increasingly polarized world, which I think we all agree that our world is pretty polarized. So Althingi, The Crescent and the Northern Star, co-edited by Mohammed. I'm sorry, I'm going to butcher the names here. So Mohammed Aurangzeb Ahmad, a mosque. So he's written some books called A Mosque Among the Stars and Islamicates, and Joshua Gillingham, who's written The Gatewatch and Old Norse for Modern Times. So this is an anthology of historical fiction which explores the intricate and often overlooked interactions between intrepid Viking voyagers and inquisitive emissaries from the powerful Islamic kingdoms. So it features stories by an incredible slate of authors writing in the historical Althingi universe, blah, 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 blah. So Viking short stories, but mixed with the Islamic world as the Muslims or the Islamic kingdoms were traveling around at the time. They had emissaries all over the place. Somebody pointed out, Gavin there, saying it's like the 13th Warrior, very much so. So the 13th Warrior is very much based on, it's based on a book by Michael Crichton, but it loosely is the story of Beowulf, but it pulls a lot on the true story of Ahmad Ibn Fadlan, I think his name is. I've got his book somewhere over there, but anyway, he wrote an account of traveling north as an emissary from Baghdad to the Bulgar people. So I'm reading some of the comments here. So anyway, very interesting, and probably, without giving too many spoilers away, for anybody who's read A Time for Swords and who maybe soon will read A Night of Flames, might be some inspiration for me for future books. You never know. So looking forward to reading that. I like short stories as well. I don't have to dedicate so much time to finishing something, so it's nice to finish a story and then move on. And the other thing that came with it as part of the Kickstarter thing was this card game, which I haven't even opened yet. It's still boxed up, so I haven't even had a chance to open it. But the game is set in Iceland in 931 AD. The Icelandic chieftains that hold power in each district meet every year at these languages, Thingvellir, for the Althingi. Each player takes the role of a powerful Icelandic chieftain and aims to gain the greatest influence at the Althingi through bribery, extortion, and, if needed, bloodshed. So it says quick game, 30 to 40 minutes, ages 12 plus, plays 2 to 4 people to play it. So I haven't played it yet. Obviously, I haven't even opened it, so no idea how good it is, but comes with the thing. I thought that was fun. So anyone who's just joined us, just to quickly show off the hardback of Night of Flames. Beautiful. So don't miss out on the 3rd of March, so very soon. And also, if you just joined, I've just received this as well yesterday, which is the A Time for Swords translated into Czech. So I was excited about that. So that's all good. And as part of the new book coming out, I've also been sent by Broken Binding, which is a bookshop that specializes in signed books. I think they predominantly specialize in fantasy books, but they're branching out and doing more historical fiction, and they've asked me to sign gazillions of these. Well, not gazillions, but literally hundreds of these. I don't know if you can see them. They're basically book plates. So I don't know if I can hold that still and you can see it, but just says signed Broken Binding. So these things, then they can stick them in books to say it's a signed. It's got my signature in it. So I'm going to sign some of these whilst talking in a minute, because I've got to get through them all. There's literally hundreds of them. So I'm going to. There's a few other things I was going to talk about, so I'll talk about while I'm signing them in a minute. Another book that I bought, if anybody's interested. Like, I'm just showing off books today. I saw this mentioned, and look at this. It's like a phone book. Although anyone who's who's younger than like 30 won't know what a phone book is. But I don't even know if phone books are a thing anymore. But look at the size of this thing; it's massive. This is the fourth revised edition, the Timetables of History. So it's going to be difficult to show you, but basically it's, I suppose if I get later in, there'll be more things going on later in history. So it's each year, it shows you all the things that happen in that year, or important world events, under different categories. So literature, religion, history, politics, music, visual arts, science, technology, daily life. So interesting to see, and it goes all the way back to prehistory. Essie Fox sounds excited by this. Maybe I think she writes historical fiction as well, so she's probably thinking, "Wow, I have one of them. I'll have that." So it goes back into prehistory, or right back to 5000 BC or something. So, and it's got an index, so it should be useful. I'm sorry I'm not holding up more, but it's quite heavy. So it seems to have quite a comprehensive index as well. I've not used it really. I only got it a couple of days ago, and it goes up to 2004. So 2004 must have been when it was done. Yeah. So unless you're writing historical fiction that takes place in 2004, you're probably pretty useful for anybody writing historical fiction. So pick a year at random. Oh, look, that's nice. Thanks. There's the Kickstarter thing, our thingy, the Viking game. So Mark, thanks for pulling that out. So anybody interested, you can see the thing there. Oh, my uncle's on. Hello, Ian. Uncle Ian. Nice to see you. I'll see you talking on here. We were supposed to visit my uncle and his family, my cousins and extended family in back in 2020. They live in Canada, and strangely enough, we haven't been yet. So it's been put off umpteen times. Maybe 2023, Ian. I think that's looking like the likely date of our visit if the world continues to improve. And Ed asked, how many books have you got planned for Banishing Chronicles? Good question. One I keep getting asked. And this is, I haven't, this is part of the problem, is I haven't planned the series very well. So the short answer is I don't really know. I've just written book 9. There's at least another 2 or 3 books there. So I reckon I'll probably start winding it up at about a dozen. But I would never say never about going back and potentially filling in some of the gaps, because some of the books, there's like 5-6 year gaps between books. And potentially, I don't know exactly what's going to, like, where things are going to end up. So it's possible that there'll be a chance for a sequel, a continuation at some point if I put it down at that point. I think it's good though to kind of have some sort of end point. So I do have an end point. I do sort of know, where I want him to get to and what's the final in battle that he's going to be in. But I've got other ideas buzzing around as well. It's one of the reasons why I started doing A Time for Swords and Wolf of Wessex and kind of branching out into doing other things, because I didn't want to finish the series of Bearbrand and then have to just do a cold start onto another series or another book. So I thought I'd rather sort of start dabbling in other books and other series before and see how it goes. So Essie and Matt have both suggested years for me to look up in that book, which I will look up in a second. Got a question here from Ron. Have you ever regretted killing a character off? Well, yes. I got asked that actually last week. I was on another, doing a talk, and I'm going to start signing some of these things when I'm answering these questions. So signing these book plates for anybody that wasn't around a while ago. And yeah, so I'm not looking at you because I'm signing book plates and trying not to. They're not very big. It's not a lot of room. So anyway, so have I regretted killing someone off? The short answer is yes. And who was it, I hear you ask? Well, it was actually, I don't want to give too much away because it's a bit of a spoiler, but it was one of the baddies in one of the very early books. And it's quite difficult to come up with really good baddies. And so it felt at the time, and I think it was the right decision, that he needed to be killed off for us to have a satisfying conclusion to the story and to the book. But it would have been nice to keep him alive, although I'm also aware that characters can outstay their welcome in series, and I think there's a tendency in certain authors or certain properties, like Star Wars. They just keep bringing up the same baddies all the time. So I think it was the right decision to kill him off. But having said that, it was painful because I had to then create a new baddie. And as I say, it's never that easy to create a good baddie. Right, so I've signed a few of those. I will continue signing in a minute. This is another question here. I will do the years in a second that Essie and Matt have mentioned. Have you based any of the characters in your books on friends or family? Funny, this is coming from Simon, who is actually a friend of mine, so he's probably wondering if I've based any on him. Well, I don't think I've based any on you, Simon. It's possible that there are bits of certain characters that are based on you and others and other people, possibly. I don't think I've ever based any specific single character on a single person. I think I do take sort of traits of people and put them into characters or onto characters. So when Wolf of Wessex has got a teenage, or maybe a slightly younger than teenage, very early teenage girl in it, and I've got two daughters who are now 22 and 18. So when I was writing it, I think my youngest was probably 15 or so. And so I have experience of teenage girls, and I'm sure lots of the traits of the girl in Wolf of Wessex, and also in the Banishing Chronicles, there's a young woman in some of those stories, and I think lots of the sort of those traits come from experience of having a teenage daughter or two daughters, and yeah, and then it's actually funny because Wolf of Wessex, I got one negative review I got was saying that they thought that the girl wasn't very believable because she cried all the time. And I just thought it's funny because my experience of having teenage daughters was that they cried all the time. So I thought, well, okay. The reviewer was a woman, and she said, I'm a woman. I didn't cry all the time when I was a teenager. And I thought, well, that's you, isn't it? That's not. There's lots of, any writer will tell you, these sort of reviews are always amusing where people say, well, that's not my experience. I didn't do that, or I don't agree with this. And you think, well, Okay, well, that's your experience. The character that that I'm writing, that's not their experience, and maybe it's not my experience either. So that's always an amusing situation. I'm using the term amusing loosely. uh, so this is a long one. It's going to take up half the page here. Yeah, so Ron is asking about if it's painful, if it's a painful experience to write. Not, it's not because of having to sort of drill down into my brain to find, I don't know, to look at sort of dark recesses of my mind or something. But I think it is a bit. It's just a job. I mean, it's difficult. I think at some points it just becomes hard to think of inspiration, but it's like anything. You just have to get on with it. Right. I'm going to take a break from signing those things. I'm going to answer these things here. So Essie, I asked about years that people want me to look up in the book. So Essie said 1820. Now I'm pretty sure that 1820, there's going to be tons of things in that book. So I'm going to move my keyboard out of the way because the book is here and it's huge. So if anyone who's not seen so far, this is the Timetables of History, written by someone called Bernard Grun, based on the Werner Stein's Kulturfahrplan. So it seems to have been, I think that's based on, does that mean stolen, plagiarized? I don't know. Anyway, joking, of course. 1820, I'm going to look it up. Here we go. Now, okay, there's not a huge amount. So there's a few things. So here we got 1820. That's, I don't know if you can see that there. So we've got 1820 here. So I'll read you some of the highlights. Let's have a look. History, politics, 1820. Revolution in Spain. King Ferdinand VII forced to restore Constitution of 1812. King George III of England dies, succeeded by Prince Regent George IV. Caroline, wife of George IV, demands recognition as queen, blah, blah, blah. Assassination of the Duc de Berry, heir presumptive to France, to the throne of France. His son, the Comte de Chambord, is born, I think. Yeah, and dies in 1883. So yeah, there's all sorts of stuff going on. There's a few other things. Missouri Compromise. Maine enters Union as free state. U.S. land law fixes land price at a minimum of $1.25 per acre. This final act of Vienna Congress passed. Revolution in Portugal, demanding a constitution. And there's a conference at Troppau, Silesia, I don't know, to discourage revolutionary tendencies in Europe. It's adjourned to reopen at Laibach. Wow. Okay, literature. Washington Irving writes the sketchbook, or publishes the sketchbook of Geoffrey Crayon. Gent. Other stuff. Oh, Keats, Ode to a Nightingale, one of my favourite poems, was published. Scott published Ivanhoe. So yeah, some good stuff going on. Some stuff about religion, which I can't be bothered. Visual arts. William Blake, illustrations to the Book of Job. Constable painted Harwick. Harwick? Is it Harwick or Harwich? I don't know. Harwick. I'm going to say Harwick Lighthouse. Other things there. So yeah, exciting stuff. Florence Nightingale was born. Rich deposits of platinum were discovered in the Urals. So all that's in 1820. There you go. So we shed lots of people there. I think people aren't interested in history. Let's have a look. What was the other one? 624. Let's have a look here. 624 that Matt said. I bet there's not going to be much. 624. Tell you what, 624, there's only one entry for the whole of 624, which is Muhammad married Aisha, the 10-year-old daughter of Abu Bakr. There you go. So that's it for 624. Not a lot going on, at least from a historical perspective of what they've got in the timetables of history. But that's the usual. The further back you go, the less stuff there is to read about, which makes it. So Essie likes the book. Yeah, it's I saw it advertised. Or I saw actually. I don't know. It's a thread on Facebook or something, and somebody mentioned it and said, "Oh yeah, I always use this book." And I looked it up, and it's like it was £20 or something. It wasn't incredibly expensive, so I thought I'll buy it. I mean, if it had been like £100, I wouldn't have got it, but for that price, you think, well, it's worth it. So yeah. Okay. So, any other questions while I'm signing these book plates? By the way, my signature changes drastically as I sign things. My autograph just changes. I don't know if other writers have this problem, but I find it very difficult to maintain an autograph that looks the same. And yeah, that's it. Anyway, if you don't have questions, I have some other things I was going to talk about, and I'll wait and see if you post anything. I was going to tell you a little bit about. So I've shown you some books. Oh, Mark's asking about what I'm drinking. Well, what I'm drinking is a Session IPA. This is exciting stuff. Session IPA from 10-4 Brewing, and it's just called Session IPA, I believe. There you go, that stuff. So it's very nice, very pleasant. Yes, Matt says that it's nice that the book is laid out like the Anglo-Saxon Chronicles. Yeah, from Aldi, I think so. Yeah, I think it is from Aldi. Yeah, it's good. Right, signing more of these things. So I was going to talk about. Oh, I know one thing I do need to talk about while I've got you here. Next Friday, I'm doing a talk with. It should probably be more exciting than this one, hopefully, with Giles Christian. So Giles will be on, and it's on the 18th. So that's next Friday, 7:30. So similar sort of time, and you can pop in. It's free. Come along. It'll be the same sort of format, but it'll be me and Giles, and we'll have some questions for each other and a chat about writing and books. And he's got a book coming out soon. So any questions you've got for me or Giles, bring them along, and we will be happy to answer them. And I won't be distracted signing things. I'll just be talking to Giles and maybe drinking a beer as well, because why wouldn't I drink a beer as well? So yeah, Giles is a great guy. I've met him before, and he'll be a lot of fun, I'd imagine, and have a lot to talk about, and I'm sure he'll be really happy to answer all your questions. So while I'm signing these things, these book plates for the book binding, which I should probably plug them a bit more as well. So the book binding, so yeah, go and have a look at their bookshop, and if you want to buy signed copies of books, have a look there. So what have I been watching recently? Well, I'm having a bit of a binge of Val Kilmer movies, because I watched the documentary called Val, which is unsurprisingly about Val Kilmer. And if you haven't seen it, it's a bit sad, because he had throat cancer a few years ago, and he was operated and he's recovered from it, but I think he's cancer free. But basically, I think he had to have his voice box removed, and he can't talk pretty much. He can't breathe and talk at the same time, and he's lost his ability to talk properly. Okay, bye, Essie. And so yeah, it's quite it's a bit sad, really, and it made me think about what a great actor he is, and what great movies he's been in. And so I started sort of binge watching lots of his old movies, just to because it's been so long since I've seen lots of them. So I thought I'll watch them and get a reminder of how great he was. And so I watched The Doors, the Oliver Stone movie, The Doors, which is available on was it? I think it was Netflix. And if you've not seen it, if you're into music, then it's fantastic. I mean, it's a great film. bit out there, but it kind of got me into the doors when I watched it back in the early 90s. There's lots of, it's a real, what do they call those, ensemble casts with lots of different great actors in it. Kyle MacLachlan's in it. Meg Ryan is his love interest, and Val Kilmer is Jim Morrison, and he's just incredible. And he's kind of like a even better looking version of Jim Morrison than Jim Morrison. But yeah, he kind of just embodies Jim Morrison in a almost scary way, really. And the film's quite trippy, which seems reasonable for the subject matter, but obviously it's got great music. But was a little bit depressing about how self-destructive Jim Morrison was. But yeah, great film. If you haven't seen it, I would recommend it for a night of drinking and just chilling out and drinking a few beers, and listening to some great music and watching Jim Morrison, well, Val Kilmer as Jim Morrison, being self-destructive. So watch that. That was great. And also watched Heat, the Michael Mann movie. Heat, which again, talking of ensemble casts, fantastic. Robert De Niro, Al Pacino, Val Kilmer, Ashley Judd, Natalie Portman's in it. It's just incredible. And if you haven't seen that, then what are you waiting for? That's an incredible movie. I think the Christopher Nolan, who, before he directed the Dark Knight movies, made his crew all watch Heat as an example of what he wanted it to look like, and the sort of how he wanted the action to look, and how he wanted the city to look. And so it's a seminal piece of filmmaking, all filmed on location. I've had a bit of I went down sort of the rabbit hole after listening to podcasts about it and all sorts. But yeah, it's the first time that Robert De Niro and Al Pacino had a scene together in the same same set, the same place in a film, and it's, if you don't know the premise of the story, and it's basically it's a sort of heist police drama, action drama, and Robert De Niro is the leader of the heist gang, the criminals, and Al Pacino is the sort of coked up detective that's chasing around. The reason I say he's coked up is because he's incredibly over the top throughout the whole movie, and feels very accelerated all the time. And I heard apparently in an interview he said in the about 15 years ago that in his mind the guy was on coke all the time, but in the film they don't show that at all, so you just think he's a bit mad, but it's an incredible over the top performance. But there's some moments, there's an incredibly famous shootout in it which takes place in like downtown LA, and it was all filmed on location in the street using blanks, obviously not real bullets, but it's not like nowadays that they're now talking about not using any sort of firing weapons because of the accidents that have happened. So they were using proper guns in the street, running around, throwing out brass out of these guns and everything. And apparently when they and it goes on for ages. There's like hundreds and hundreds of rounds shot. They shoot their way out and escape from the police, and apparently when Michael Mann saw the sound mix, or heard the sound mix, and they put it all together, and they said, here's the edit or whatever. He said that's rubbish. He didn't like it. So that, in cinema they always go off and somebody will create the sound. They don't use the sound that's recorded on set. They create the sounds again and re-record them and all that stuff. And he just said that doesn't sound loud enough. It doesn't sound right. So that he made them go back and use the actual audio that was recorded in the street at the time. So what you hear in the film is actually real gunfire, and it's incredibly loud. And the mix obviously puts it up very, very loud, and it just sounds unlike any other movie when it comes to gunfire in really. Anyway, great movie, great performances. The whole thing is pretty much brilliant. Gosh, I haven't even got through half of I haven't even got through like a quarter of these bloody things. I've signed that many so far. I've got that many of the first of 3 packs of these things. There's hundreds of them. Well, they're going to vaguely look like my signature, I guess. Yeah. So Mark says Heat is an amazing film with a ridiculously great cast. It really is. It's fantastic. So yeah, if you haven't seen it, that again is available. It's available on Amazon Prime and Netflix. I saw both for free. So get in there and watch that if you haven't seen it. Oh, I clicked the wrong one then. I was going to show this thing here, actually, this one from Terry, and things moved. We'll be getting a song or two from you and Giles next week. So I very much doubt it, but you never know, I suppose. I mean, it's possible, but I doubt it. It'd be pretty difficult to sing together. I don't know if we're going to sing in without having too much delay. But yeah, if you don't know, I mean, Giles used to sing in a band and was successful, and had toured the world and was on Top of the Pops and all that sort of stuff. I used to sing in a pub band, so we can both. I can hold a tune. Both of us can sing, but I doubt whether we'll be singing next week on this. But yeah, if you've just tuned in and you're watching me live, Giles Christian, 7:30 next week on the 18th, will be here to talk and to chat to me and to answer your questions. So please come along and ask us some questions. Mark is asking, have I discovered any new bands recently that you'd recommend? Oh, just trying to think now. Any new bands? I bought tickets to go and see a band. It's not a new band, but I bought tickets to go and see Airborne, who are playing bizarrely in Frome in Wiltshire. And I bought tickets to go with the ex-bass player from the band that I used to be in, because we used to do one of their numbers. But it's not a new band, but it's unusual for them to be gigging somewhere local because they like play stadiums and stuff. So I think it's a warm-up gig, but that's sometime in May. Oh, in Somerset. Sorry, I said Frome in Wiltshire. Sorry, Somerset. Anyone from Frome, of course, will be moaning, "How dare you!" Yeah, but yeah. So seeing Airborne, I can't think of any new bands. I've been listening to The Doors ever since watching the movie again. A lot this week, and what else? There's I think a new album coming out for a band that I like, or I have liked. I'm not sure if I still like. Foxy Shazam, which is an American band, very, very zany. But I saw them live supporting The Darkness, and I like The Darkness a lot. And Foxy Shazam was amazing live, and they've got a couple of really good albums, but they're a bit too far out there sometimes. So it's a bit of an acquired taste, but definitely worth. Steel Panther. Simon Blunson's asking me about Steel Panther. Are they any good? Well, Steel Panther are very good. I don't know if you're being facetious. They're very good metal rock band, but very rude. But we used to, with my band years ago, we used to do Eyes of a Panther by Steel Panther. So yeah, but they have a lot of very, very rude songs. It's like Tenacious D X-rated and with lots more pinched harmonics and fast guitar. But good band. I've seen them live as well. Both of them. I've seen Tenacious D live as well. How's Brian? Who's Brian? I'm confused. Getting asked by someone, how's Brian? So I have no idea who Brian is. Maybe I should know. Unless he's talking about Brian May. That's the instant that I think of Brian. I think of Brian May. Whoops. Oh, I've got it on my desk. I think I've ruined that one. They're so small, these things. These book plates. They're so small that I've now written on my desk twice. Because I've slipped off the side of the book plate. My signature is too... Okay, I don't know who Brian is, but okay. So, who's more handsome, me or Giles Christian? Well, that's it's an impossible quandary. It's like, actually, I mean, we're both so handsome that when we're both on screen at the same time, it's possible that the internet will collapse, because the answer to this question is we're both incredibly handsome. So, but I would never say, who is more handsome. It's like asking, I don't know, an impossible question to answer. You can be the judge of that. Come along next time and let me know. So other than that, I was just thinking other things that I've been watching. I talked about Heat, talked about The Doors. I watched the first series of Reacher, which is based on the first of the Jack Reacher novels by Lee Child. There's a couple of movies made with Tom Cruise a few years ago that were okay as sort of action police drama type movies. But for anyone who's read the Jack Reacher novels, you'll know that they didn't do very well with the casting, because Tom Cruise is about 5'7" or something, and Jack Reacher is famous for being 6'5" and 250 pounds. So he's massive. And lots of the storylines revolve around the fact that he's huge and very, very strong and can beat people to a pulp with his bare hands. So they've now brought out a series called Reacher, and it's based on The Killing Floor, which is the first book of the series. And they've done great with the actor, guy called Alan Ritchson. And I think he's about 6'3", but incredibly big, strong guy. Obviously does loads of weights and exercise. So he really looks the part, and they've done a really good job with making it quite faithful to the book. It's 8 episodes. And yeah, it deviates from the book a little bit, and there's a few things that are not perfect, but all in all, very enjoyable. And it's been renewed for a second series already. So if you're into Jack Reacher and you haven't watched it yet and you like the books, then I'd recommend it. A little known fact that when I was going around trying to get a book deal for The Serpent Sword, I did pitch it to agents as Jack Reacher in the Dark Ages. So that was kind of my original pitch. So there you go. So I've been a fan for years. Wow. I don't think I'm going to do all 300 of these today. Again, doing this signing. I'm just going to turn the heating down. It's warm in here now. Good thing about this room is it does warm up quickly, but it's hot. Ha! Simon says, I think Bearbrand would win in a fight against Reacher. Well, he might do because he's got a sword. You're probably right if it was the Reacher from the TV series, because there was one moment that I particularly didn't like, and I love the books and I really like the series as well, but there's one moment I really thought was out of character, and even out of character for the character in the series, when he's huge and he's already dispatched loads of people with his bare hands. He's incredibly strong. And then there's one bit when he's fighting one of the sort of the main villains, and to make the to make it more exciting or whatever they do in these TV things or in films, they knock the gun out of his hand, out of Reacher's hand. And this guy's about half his size, but he's got a crowbar or something, and he's swinging it around, and he's hitting Reacher with it, and he drops the gun. And instead of just catching the crowbar or blocking it and then beating him to a pulp, he does that thing they do in films, which is when he turns around and tries to scrabble for the gun, as if he needs to have the gun to protect himself against this guy who's like half his size. And it was just so un-Reacher. It really annoyed me, because I thought, well, you could have just killed this guy with your bare hands. Why didn't you just beat him up? And of course, he goes for the gun. He fails to get the gun. The guy hits him some more, and the fight goes on. And this happens like 2 or 3 times in that fight. I was like, oh, come on, really? And I think there's ways of making fights exciting without having to resort to the, I need a gun. And there was of course, there's the moment in the Jack Reacher, one of the Jack Reacher movies with Tom Cruise in it, which really put me off. Yeah, Simon agrees. Which really put me off, which is they've kept a line, which I think is a line directly from the novel, where they go to a motel or something, they're looking for Reacher, and the police say, we're looking for a guy that, so where's this guy? I don't know. And they say, we're looking for a guy that can, he's big enough that he looks like he can kill a man with one punch. And bearing in mind, this is Tom Cruise, that's the character, but the guy in the reception goes, oh yeah, he's in room 7 or something. It's like, what? If somebody comes to the reception, you've seen Tom Cruise walk by that day and says, I'm looking for a guy that looks big enough and strong enough to kill someone with one punch. You don't go, oh yeah, that's Tom Cruise. And it was just really bizarre that they left the line in. Here's an interesting question. Difficult one to answer, probably. But do you watch many martial arts films, either Asian cinema or Hollywood? I'm wondering how much they influence your fight scenes in your novels. I don't really. I have watched a few in my time, sort of Jackie Chan movies and things like that. Talking about Asian ones, but not loads. And Hollywood, I like action movies, and so I'll watch stuff, and I try to be cinematic, but I don't think I watch those sort of things with a view to influencing my fight scenes. Maybe I do. Maybe they do a bit. I don't know, really. I've not really consciously thought about it. I think the thing that influences the fight scenes most is just my own sense of movement, from fencing. I fenced a little bit a few years ago, and I kind of think about that, the lines and the tempo and things. But also, it's I sort of block the scene out and think about it I suppose as you would block out a scene for stunt stuntmen in a film. So I do that, sort of block it out in my mind a little bit, and sort of you work out where you could be and what you could do and what you could do then. And so yeah. For anybody who doesn't know what I'm doing, by the way, I'm looking down. I'm signing these book plates. I've been given a whole stack of these book plates to sign, and I've been signing them for like nearly an hour now, or well, less than an hour because I was talking for a lot of it. But let's say I've been signing for half an hour, and I've not even got through the first stack of 3 stacks, and my signature looks dreadful on most of them as well. So I'm obviously not great at talking and signing, but it's got to be done, and I'm not just going to sit here for hours on my own just signing these things. So Terry asks, Bearbrand versus Uhtred, who wins? Well, who do you think? I think it would depend. If they're the same age, both in their prime, like at 30 years old or something, I think it's probably a stalemate. They both just beat the crap out of each other, and then go to the pub. I don't know. I think Uhtred's quite sneaky. I think Bearbrand's a bit more direct. I don't think Bearbrand is as sneaky as Uhtred, so I think maybe Uhtred would do something sneaky. He'd probably challenge Bearbrand to a duel or something, and then Bearbrand would go and fight, and then Uhtred would have his men run up a hill and attack him from behind or something. I can imagine Uhtred cheating. maybe that's I don't know. Maybe that's not fair. But I think strength for strength, man against man. I think they're probably both very similar in prowess by the time they're at their peak. Maybe Uhtred might have been in more battles. Not sure. Yeah, I mean, Mark's saying here that in the TV series, he feels that Uhtred's quite fortunate in his fights. I think there's always got to be a little bit of luck in fights in books and on TV, and I think it's the same in the books. And I did go through somebody actually reviewed one of my one of the books, I don't know which one it was, and said, Bearbrand, he survived all the fights in this book by luck and by having other people rescue him. He's actually not a very good fighter. I think it's Warrior of Woden. I think it might be. And basically implying that he was not actually a very good warrior. And all this sort of thing of saying that he's great and he's got all this prowess, but he's actually getting his head kicked in all the time, which I think, it's partly true. And I think you've got to have that element of, will he survive? Will he not? Will he lose? So sometimes they've got to lose a battle or lose the upper hand. And sometimes it's got to be a bit of luck. Bearbrand gets fed up because everyone says he's lucky. But there has to be an element of luck to it all. But I think you kind of make your own luck as well. Or characters make their own luck. Like real people make their own luck as well. I don't like it when people say, "Oh, you've been really lucky. You're successful," because it kind of implies that you've done nothing to get there yourself. You think, okay. So, I wonder. I think I'm going to finish this stack. Yeah, Mark's saying there has to be some jeopardy involved. I think, yes, there does. You are correct. Yeah, I think it's important to actually at some point kill off characters as well. One of the questions early on was, do I regret killing anyone in the books? And I said yes. And sometimes I regret killing characters off, but I think there has to be an element of jeopardy. People have to be seen to be able to die, because it would be incredibly unbelievable if every battle, every fight they're in, nobody ever dies. Of course, I always find it amusing when people say things like, "Oh no, you can't kill so and so," and I think, well, first they're fiction anyway. The books are all fiction, but then they're all set in the 7th century or the 8th or 9th century, whichever book you're reading. So all of these characters, even if they were real, they've all been dead for hundreds of years. So I don't know why you get surprised that they're going to die. Well, that always amuses me. So I'm going quiet here, signing these book plates. Probably got another 10, 15 or something to go. I'm going to save the others for another day. I can't face signing all of them. I've actually got some book plates I did myself, which are bigger than these. These are tiny ones. Oh, I've got another. My list of things to mention. I jotted down a little thing. Another thing I watched was I finished watching the Book of Boba Fett. Has anybody watched that? Go open Bennett. It's on Disney Plus. Now, the context of this is that I am, or I was, one of the biggest Star Wars fans ever. I could tell you stories about how much of a Star Wars fan I was, but that would make me look bad. So I won't right now. But massive Star Wars fan since I was a kid. I started to get a bit bored with all the cartoons and stuff. I have to say, I'm very much Star Wars fan of the live action movies, and now recently, I mean, I've played some of the games on computer stuff. I got the role playing game. I used to play Dungeons and Dragons a lot and role playing games. And I bought the Star Wars role playing game. I was massively into Star Wars, but recently, the last couple of years, got into the Mandalorian. I thought, oh, they've hit their stride now. They've got something good going. The first season of the Mandalorian was great. Second season, not as good, but it was okay. Anyway, the Book of Boba Fett, as they say, is the new Disney Plus series, which features the Mandalorian again, appears in a couple of episodes. Anyway, it's absolute rubbish. It's terrible. It's unrelentingly bad. I can hardly think of anything positive to say about it, except for there's one episode that Boba Fett doesn't appear in, and the Mandalorian appears in, which is weird anyway, to have an episode of a thing that's ostensibly about one character that character doesn't appear in. And that episode is actually good. It's terrible. Anyway, it's terrible. And the worst thing is, 3 of the episodes are directed by Robert Rodriguez, who's was a great director back in the day. And he seems to have just lost his way. And yeah, just terrible. And I was really disappointed because I was looking forward to seeing it. I don't know why I sort of thought it wasn't going to be great even before seeing it. There's something about the title, The Book of Boba Fett. Why is it called that? There's no reason. As far as I can see, there was no reason why it's called The Book of Boba Fett either. Anyway, it's horrible. So if you've seen it, let us know what you thought. If you haven't seen it, I don't recommend it, but watch it and let us know what you think. Almost done signing this first pile, which I think is 100. I need to make a shorter. I need to do something with my autograph to make it my signature, make it shorter. It's too long. It takes me too long to do it. And they all look different as well, which is weird. But hey, it's all good. And the thing is as well that they've used this shiny. This is the problem I had when I made some of these book plates. That they're shiny, so you have to use a Sharpie. You can't use any other pen. Any other pen smudges, which is incredibly annoying. And I'm not a massive fan of the thick Sharpie pens. Anyway, I'm almost done with these lot. So, almost done with this first tranche of 100 of these things. I think I've knackered up a couple. So before I go, I will reiterate what's happening next week for anyone that's watching this that's not paying attention. So next week on the 18th, Friday the 18th, 7:30, Giles Christian, author of great renown, who's written lots of Viking stuff, and he's got a new book coming out called When Blood Runs Cold, I do believe. And it's a modern day thriller, this new one. But yeah, he's written Lancelot and Camelot and Raven books, some stuff about the English Civil War as well. So he's written quite a few books, very successful. So somewhere or other, I've got the rubber band for that, but I don't know where it is. Where is it? Over there. Right, here's my stack of signed ones that I've done. That's the first stack and my terrible signature, which I'm not going to dwell on. It's dreadful. Right, okay. Well, that's one lot done. I'll do the other lots another time. But yeah, so Giles Christian will be here 7:30. Come along, ask us some questions. Should be fun. Bring your questions with you. And just a final reminder, Night of Flames is out in hardback and in ebook, and audio should follow soon. But these ebook and hardback are out on the 3rd of March. I know the ebook is going to be soon afterwards. I spoke via email to Barnaby Edwards this week, and I sent him a list of character names and accents for them and stuff. So he's recording that, I think, next week. So it should be ready, if not by release date, very soon afterwards. So that's good news. So if you haven't already pre-ordered that, please do. Hope you'll enjoy it. It's the longest book I've ever written, and the first book in the series, A Time for Swords, is going to be already out in Czech as well. So if you're in the Czech Republic, or you know anybody who speaks Czech or who would like a book in Czech, then drop us a line and drop me a line and see what I can do, because I've got a couple of these knocking around that I could sort you out with, perhaps. So until next week, have a fantastic weekend. Try to get a stamp. Yeah, I don't know if I don't think that counts. I think you just get a stamp and just stamp it there. Maybe it does. Maybe I should do that. With the books that I sign at home, I use my special stamp embosser thing that says that they're especially signed by me at like my special library. But yeah, I don't think I could just rubber stamp them, but maybe I should. But I think somebody else could just do that then, and then there'd be no way of proving if it was real or not. Anyway, so have a good weekend. You've got a couple of weeks to catch up with A Time for Swords, ready for A Night of Flames, which is out on the 3rd of March. And yeah, speak to you next week. Hopefully you can drop in to speak to Giles and me, and that should be fun. Before I go, Miggy has just asked, why are my books not on sale at supermarkets? Well, who knows? In fact, I don't really know, except for there's limited space on supermarket shelves. I have had one book out in supermarkets. So The Wolf of Wessex was out on supermarket shelves, at least in Tesco's. So yeah, and I think it just depends on catalogs and sales. People go out and try to sell to the sellers of supermarkets, and if you're not a household name, it's quite difficult to get books that are not of the latest genre, I guess, or the most exciting or the most popular genre onto those shelves, because shelf space is of a premium. And it's the same in bookshops. I mean, my books, if you go into most Waterstones, my books aren't on the shelves. So all I can say is, please, when you go into bookshops, ask for my books, and spell my surname and tell them, look, he really exists. Please stock his books. We want these books. But and you never know. Wolf of Wessex was on the bookshelves in Asda, and I presume they sold. The book sold pretty well. So in fact, I think it's been my best-selling book, so probably did help. So it would be nice to get more of my books on bookshelves in bookshops and in supermarkets, but hey ho. Right, so have a good one. Have a great weekend. Do lots of reading. Have fun. Enjoy whatever you're doing. If you're watching the rugby, enjoy the rugby. Enjoy whatever you're doing, and stay safe. And I'll speak to you all soon. Bye bye. And thanks for coming along.